Okay, and welcome everybody to episode one of Bandcamp Massacre. And today I have writer and guitar player Ben Fitz.
Hey.
And I believe you also have Gabby from War Honey with you.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, thank you both for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so tell me a bit about what the background of the band War Honey is.
Right, so we've known each other since we were teenagers. We did like a band camp together. Now, actually, both of our day jobs is teaching at that same organization. So we had never been in bands together before, but we had been in bands with all the same people growing up for close to like 8 years time frame. About that. And then after I graduated college, I moved back in Brooklyn, so we became roommates. And then kind of the bands we were in fell apart a little bit before then, so we started a new thing. Originally just out of our apartment, writing songs, and then we got together a whole lineup, and then coronavirus happened, so then we kind of went back to writing songs in our apartment. Unless you have anything to add, Gabby, I think that catches us up.
Yeah, no, it really was kind of a roundabout thing that we're kind of back to just what we do now. Writing songs here and hoping to expand upon them in the future.
Yeah, so far you have a demo and a single up on Bandcamp, which is warhoney.bandcamp.com. The songs definitely have a very lo-fi indie sound to them. I think part of that is the fact that they are demos. You plan to release more polished versions of them at some point?
Yeah, definitely. The demos are like a great start, and they were a great way to kind of like feel out what the sound was. But yeah, we definitely want to, for most of them, create better versions.
Yeah,
more final. So.
We have an EP that we finished recording, about to send off to get mixed. Two of the three songs, well, there's 4 tracks, there's 3 songs, and one's just like this weird little noise piece I made because I also like do noise music on my own time. Of the 3 songs, one of them is Landmine, which is on that very first demo from January, and then the other 2 are like brand new ones. So one of them we've already done that, even if it's not out yet.
Okay, and what's the meaning behind the band name War Honey? That's a very interesting combination of words.
Yeah, I wish it was a better story behind it.
I don't really know if we have one. I have this vague memory of Ben and another guy that was in the band for a bit, just like who was also our roommate, just kind of yelling back and forth, through the apartment possibilities, and then one of them said "War Honey," and the other one turned around and said "War Honey," and then they repeated it for a while, and we decided we liked it.
I think what happened was Eric said a different combination of words, but the sentence contained both the words war and honey. And through some like mental gymnastics, I put those together into a band name, and that's just the one that clicked. So we were really struggling there. We had music. We had the first demo we recorded. We wanted to put it out. We wanted to book a gig soon, and we had no names. So we were really struggling there for a second.
I feel like that happens. Like, this is definitely not the first time in my life that I've been in a band ready to go, and the last piece is the name.
Yeah, so I believe you started in pretty recently in 2019.
Yeah, I guess we first started writing songs, just Gabby and I, like July or August 2019. But we got the full lineup together that fall. Started playing shows this like early 2020. Our first gig was like early January. And then we had a bunch more lined up, and then everything got canceled.
Yeah, that was
it was looking good.
a big boner killer for a lot of people who are working in music is the coronavirus. So you did release like the second demo single, Racehorse, during the quarantine. Mm-hmm. And have you just been spending quarantine working on more songs?
Yeah, definitely. With the rest of the quarantine, we also finished that EP that Ben was just talking about. So that's hopefully going to come out shortly, sometime this fall. We're just kind of, getting it together at this point. We're we're also jamming, on some covers and some newer stuff, and we're looking forward to getting back, to like a physical space with our drummer and the rest of our band, and seeing people in person and playing with them at the exact same time. It's insane.
Racehorse was recorded during quarantine though in our apartment with that's why it's as lo-fi as it is. It's, we had just the microphones we had. Yeah, and the CP was also recorded in our apartment. But we're hoping we're actually this time I mixed the stuff before. This time we're sending it to someone better than me. So hopefully it's gonna come out a little bit more polished.
Yeah, you're selling out, trying to polish it up. But what are you did talk about some of your influences on your website. Can you talk a bit about what influenced you to do this type of music, and how you kind of plan to have it sound when it's more polished? Right.
I don't think it's gonna sound all that much more different when we get the more polished version. I think it's just gonna be like a little less clicky. It's more like so we're planning on sending it to this guy Jalapez. We haven't actually hit him up about it yet, but he mixed the first AJJ album. If you're familiar with them, it's more about just somebody who understands. Like I have a minor in production, so I know a little bit about how it goes. But someone who like really gets like, okay, this is the kind of compressor to really get that guitar tone right is kind of the goal. But in terms of like influences, I'd say like we're from a lot of different musical background. Like I said before, I really love like noise music, experimental. In college, I was playing, which this is the band we formed like right out of me graduating. So like my immediate time before was the band I was in college. I was playing a lot of like metal and hardcore bands. I was like in an indie rock band back before that, and I kind of did like a full circle with that. Gabby, I think your like story kind of similar there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I could not be a bigger Modest Mouse fan, but I'm classically trained. Like I've done a lot of opera just collegiately, and because music school is the way music school is. But I've been trying to find a balance. I think all my life at this point of like mixing that in. I think Florence Welch does that really well. I really like singers. It's kind of cliche, I really like Janis Joplin, Ella Fitzgerald, but
Yeah, I definitely kind of wondered if you were formally trained, Gabby, because it definitely did sound like, you, like, compared to a lot of, like, indie singers, you definitely sound more polished and more, I guess, heavier would be the right word.
Thank you.
The demo, which you just called a demo, when did you say you recorded that again?
I'm sorry, what was that?
When did you say you recorded the demo?
Bandcamp demo, November.
I think we recorded it like shortly before New Year's Day, and then released it shortly after. So I guess we recorded it right around Christmas, and released it I think like January 4th or 5th, that first week of 2020.
That sounds right.
Yeah, we just recorded it just in this practice space we rented like a block from our house.
Yeah, just brought a bunch of mics, set them up.
Yeah.
Tried to capture it.
Yeah, so the two songs on there are Landmine and Stupid Stature.
Yeah.
Is there any specific like stories behind those songs?
Well, Landmine is a protest song. Just capitalism in this country has just gotten wild, is, I guess, for lack of a better word. It's just very unjust, and it's, something that bothers me a lot. And, we as a band, like, try to take a political stance for what is right. And Landmine ended up on this really, really dope compilation of protest songs. It's like 200 protest songs called Demos for a Difference. And that's just, they're doing great work with that. So I feel really lucky.
Yeah, it's the compilation's a fundraiser for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. It started in the wake of like the Black Lives Matter movement, kind of coming back the way it did earlier this summer. Because a lot of people all of a sudden needed legal defense funds during that. And Stupid Stature, Gabby wrote the words to that. Like, the song was this riff, the main riff was this thing I wrote years and years ago for a band that didn't go anywhere, so it's kind of like Frankenstein my own stuff there, and chopped it out and put it into this new song.
Right,
Yeah.
Actually, I did, like, kind of the same thing. It was initially this, like, very long kind of spoken word, like, poem that I wrote in college that, like, just ended up kind of going with it in a way. And yeah, it was like one of the first things that we had jammed on together, so it was like a good experience for us to like come together initially with that one.
Yeah, and Racehorse, I think of the three songs that you have up so far, that one's my favorite. I especially, really like the chorus on that. Um, it's like reading the lyrics. It does seem to be sort of like a song about shit just keeps happening. Was that something you recently wrote, or was in response to like the virus and everything happening, or is it an older song?
Actually, it was like just before the virus, really, that we kind of like initially, or that I initially put the lyrics together. It's not about the virus or that stuff per se. It is more so about just like the ability to let go and like move on after you feel like you're just getting dumped with a bunch of shit. Um, finding your own closure and whatnot.
I see. Yeah, I admit when I first, went in and started listening to things, I expected Ben to be the lyricist because I first knew him as a writer from his stories and a couple of his zines that I own. But Gabby, are you also a writer besides just a lyricist?
Actually, no. Ben is definitely more involved in the literary world than I am. Like, I really just do the music thing. I don't know. I've been writing songs for like 12 years. I don't know. I've always just kind of done that. I write poetry, but that's really it.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead here and play the song Racehorse, and I hope you all enjoy it.
There's no such thing as closure, and waiting for it sets you on an imminent fate, and it won't ever be over. If you expect to stumble on a definite debt, now think back to all the people, all the power you gave, just 'cause they did something bad enough to go on a page. And for what, for whom, and how long? Is there something weighing on your head, clenching the hold, or you the one in the way, just letting go? And for what, for whom, and how long?
Okay, so that was Racehorse by War Honey. You can download that on warhoney.bandcamp.com, and it's at a name your price. So you can either get it for free, or you can toss $1 to them or more if you want to. What are your future plans? Like, assuming the virus hurries up and passes, and everything goes back to some semblance of order.
Right. Well, the thing that's definitely going to happen, regardless of the virus, is that EP's coming out this fall. So that's going to happen because we did that in a post-virus world. We had some gigs that we were really excited about that didn't happen because of the virus. So hopefully they'll get rescheduled. One of them was a memorial show for someone in the Long Island music scene. He was like a fixture in the local punk scene who died pretty young. So that one I'm assuming is still going to happen. It was a big. It was a memorial show where the money was going to a charity that gave instruments to public schools. So I'd be pretty surprised if that one falls in the wake.
Yeah, that's a really important one.
Yeah. I guess not to just like speak for everyone right now, but I guess our plans would be once things go back up, just to kind of start hitting that like New York City DIY scene with like all the intensity of like the pent up 5 months we spent of there not being shows.
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna be making up some tapes soon and of the EP and distributing those at shows, and because we're really trying to keep it as DIY as underground as we can. Not that we don't want people to hear it, but we're trying to do it ourselves,
Yeah, I think this stage of the game, it's definitely important, and like I also recognize that in the wake of this Corona deal, a lot of small venues and like great venues in the scene that we love have suffered, have closed. So we, if we need to, I'm actually kind of looking forward to adapting to a possible like house show driven scene. So definitely have plans to get more involved in that.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting, especially in New York, considering that's one of the cities that was hit hardest by the virus.
Yeah, we were in the neighborhood, in the borough, in the city, in the country that was hit the hardest in the world. So, yeah, yeah.
But we're happy to go back.
Yeah, so hopefully soon. So to transition here, I wanted to talk to Ben. You wanted to talk to you about your writing for a little bit. Yeah, so you currently have a book out with Nihilism Revised called My Birth and Other Regrets. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's my first book. It's a collection of stories I wrote. I'd say kind of the earliest of those was 2018, and the very last of those was written about like a month before I sent the overall transcript in to Nihilism Revised. I think May 2019. And I think that it shows that it's my first book, not in that it's bad or anything, or at least I hope not, but in that it really kind of runs the gamut of what I do. So there's some like pretty slapstick, bizarro stories. There's a couple of things that could probably be called like splatterpunk horror, not like Edward Lee level, but same broad strokes genre. And there's like so there's like pulp, there's literary, jumps around genre wise because I don't really do the same thing over and over again because I don't even know how to go about doing that. I'm so much okay. This is this idea. Let me just do that now. So I think it's a good kind of it's a good sampler of the different stuff I do.
Yeah, and I can kind of see like your experience in being a musician bleeding into that with a couple of the stories. One of the more interesting ones, I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically a guy who's in a coma, I believe, and he's being he had before he was put into it, he had asked to be at a show of his favorite death metal band, but there was some kind of error with the computer system that puts his mind in that, and instead he's actually put in the death metal band's album, which results in him being killed in very gruesome ways.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the ones I'd call like in the more splatterpunk vein. I was going through this big reading binge of those writers around the time I wrote that. So that one I think I would have written around like July or August 2018. It's one of the earlier stories in the collection. And that was back when I was still running a zine called the Rock and Roll Horror Zine. And so I wrote it for the second issue. I was having trouble filling it up, to be honest. I was getting submissions, but I only wanted to include submissions that were like really good. But I was this broke 20-year-old college student, so I couldn't pay a lot. So I was sifting through a lot of submissions that weren't coming from the most established writers. I'll put it that way. So I wrote some of my own stories to fill out those issues, and I'm really glad I did because I got some stories I'm really personally proud of, and probably wouldn't have gotten written otherwise if I wasn't actively searching for ideas that fit the criteria. And so that was the second of those stories.
Yeah, I do think it's a very solid book. I'm glad I got to read an advanced copy in order to blurb it.
Yeah, you're one of the very first people to have read the book.
Yeah, pretty honored. I think it's a pretty solid collection.
Oh,
Another one, yeah, it's almost like the other one that comes to mind is almost like the opposite of that one. It's like a goofy story about like a indie folk neutral milk hotel kind of band that makes a machine that turns the punk audiences they're performing for into soft boys.
Yeah, that was probably the most fun collection to write. That was me just like totally being goofy. It's just like that story was just as many jokes as I could pack in. Yeah, so that's like very much the other side of what I do. From the pretty grim stuff to like the very slapstick comedy.
And you said you started off doing zines. What got you into doing that?
Right. So I started off writing short stories, and you've read my book. My stuff's weird. There's not that many publications out there that were putting it out or interested in putting it out. I started off, I think, the way a lot of people do, by sending it to some of the more mainstream ones. So like I sent like science fiction and fantasy magazine, like a very out there bizarro story because I didn't really know where else to send it. And I got these letters back like, we enjoyed this, but what the fuck is this? That's really what it boiled down to. So I started sending a lot of my stories off to other kind of literary zines that were less profit minded because they didn't really care if they could sell it or if they could commercialize it. They just kind of were interested in whether or not they enjoyed it. I feel like a lot of punk rock bands did the same thing, just with music. So I started off by just sending it to a lot of those kind of zines. Weird Mask zine was an early one that started putting out a lot of my stuff. They're still going. They're really great. They're a kind of out there genre fiction zine. They do a lot of bizarro, a lot of horror, a lot of pulp, a lot of stuff like that. And so it got to this point where I got really into zines because I was writing them. I started collecting them, and I just kind of wanted to make my own. And I wanted to make the kind of zine that I wanted to read. So I started with my very first zine was I made a beginner's guide to bizarro fiction. It's kind of like this little, I think you actually have a copy of that. It's like this little who's who of just like profiling some bizarro writers. I just kind of stuck with my favorites at the time because, I had to pick someone to include. And then after that, I started the Rock and Roll Horror Zine, which is kind of mixing my interest in like music and like horror fiction. So I did 6 issues of that, I think from between July 2018 to I think the last one, which isn't necessarily going to be the last one forever, but the last one for now came out last March. Well, March 2019, not this March. So I had 6 issues of that, and from there I just kind of kept going, following whatever random thing I felt like making. It's kind of my life.
Yeah, is the can't remember what it's called. If you can't tell, I have the memory of a spaghetti strainer. But is the newest one that Cthulhu zine?
Oh, that's the second newest one. Gabby actually did the artwork for that one. The newest one was a story. It was a chapbook called Jeff Bezoselbub. And it's just one short story. It was the kind of thing I didn't really know where to get published, so I just like printed it out myself because I had fun with it and wanted people to read it. So it's another one of those kind of. It has maybe more horror elements than some of my comedy stuff, but it's very much like a bizarro comedy story about this woman who cancels her Amazon account, and then Jeff Bezos shows up on her door, pretty much like begging her to re-sign up with Amazon. And is like flabbergasted when she won't. And then he just kind of gets pushed further and further and reveals himself to actually, like Jeff Bezos is his like disguise that he uses to interact with humans, and he's really like this powerful demon called Jeff Bezoselbub. And then he like terrorizes her with products she bought on Amazon. So that's the newest one that came out like a month ago.
So you're writing nonfiction now? But yeah. So
actually, I am a little bit, but that's not an example.
Yeah. So, what are your future plans with your writing? Do you Do you have any more zines in the works? Are you working on another book, maybe a novel, anything like that?
Yeah, so I have a one novella that's actually finished, and I'm in the process of shopping it around. It's very much a bizarro comedy thing. I think what I found with the longer works is, so for example, like my shorter collections, like everything's like a little. My longest story in the first book is 3,000 words, so everything's like this little detour to this one specific thing. I found when I write a longer book, kind of every side of me starts to come out a little bit. So that novella I started writing thinking that this is going to be just like a straight up bizarro comedy, and then like some kind of horror elements and like really dark stuff creeped in, because like if you give me enough words, I'm going to get there. So that one's done and being shopped around. It's like around 40,000 words. I call it like a long novella. Then I have another one that's about 55,000 words that I'm actually about to get back to just give it the final read through. That's like a novel. That's another kind of like horror comedy thing. It's like bizarro adjacent, but it's a bit more grounded in reality. So I really don't know when those are going to come out, but they're just they're pretty. One of them's like done and being shopped around. One of them's going to get there soon. And then after those are out, I have about enough published short stories that I'm like totally happy with to fill up another collection. So I think I don't want to put out like 2 short story collections back to back, so I want to mix it up a bit. So my plan is once I find homes for those other 2 books, I'm going to see what I can do with these with this next short story collection. So yeah, I'm pretty much like 3 books ahead.
Okay, well that's very good to hear. I'm glad you're still working hard at that, and I'm definitely looking forward to reading those when they come out. Gabby, since I've kind of had to make you sit to the side a little bit, are you also an artist?
Yeah, in a couple different facets. I mean, I've always been a songwriter. I'm a multi-instrumentalist, but I also really enjoy visual art. I've been painting for like a number of years, mostly abstract stuff.
Oh, okay. Do you have any other projects that you'd like to discuss here?
Honestly, I'm very, very much into the band at this point. I think being like a singer-songwriter, I've always kind of felt the need to like represent one thing. Because, you know, that's sort of what I'm trying to pour my efforts into at this point. So like I'm here for the band right now. What I do on the side of that is like I'm a vocal coach and a music teacher. So like my life outside of the band is like very much occupied with that side of my career.
Okay, it's good to hear that you've been able to you've both been able to kind of make a living, doing your this sort of the art that you enjoy as a day job.
Extremely
Yeah.
Neither of us do anything not related to either music or writing for like living. That's pretty cool, because like we're both under 24. Like I didn't expect to be able to do that so quickly.
Yeah, 100%. I very much feel like I'm living the dream. You can sell your soul, or you can like do something you love, and like I don't feel like I've worked a day.
Yeah, I'm still working for an insurance company to make my rent. So we can go into the portion here where we kind of discuss some bands on Bandcamp that you've been into, that you find interesting, or that you recommend. Ben, are there any specific like bands on Bandcamp that you would recommend or would like to talk about?
Oh yeah, there's a lot. There's one band called the Endorphins from Boston.
They're awesome.
They are really good. There's a different, more popular band that's not nearly as good, also called the Endorphins. So I don't mean them. But the one we're fans of, they call themselves psychedelic punk, and it really kind of comes through. It has very much to have like a classic kind of 70s punk rock mentality. It's very kind of bombastic, very kind of no holds barred, but at the same time it has this very psych rock tonality. Lots of like trippy guitars and kind of it's a really, really cool mix I haven't really heard anyone else do. We found them through Bandcamp, and they ended up actually being who we opened for in our very first gig under the name War Honey, so that worked out really cool.
Yeah, they put
That's
on.
pretty awesome.
Yeah. And another one I'd have to recommend is a singer-songwriter by the name of Anthony Morris. He's based in Long Island. He's I don't know, he's like one of like the hardest working musicians I know. His music's so good. I'm just like waiting for him to blow up, because I know it's gonna have to happen at some point. He's got a great voice. He's kind of like I'd say his stuff's like a mixture of like indie rock with Americana. There's some like kind of folk country elements. There's also like some grunge elements. I'm not quite sure what he would call himself genre wise. It's kind of like I guess like Justin Townes Earl meets. Trying to even think of like the right band, like any number of like 90s college rock groups, and he's got a phenomenal voice. So I'm a big fan of Tony's work.
He's also such a great guy.
Yeah, he
He's
is
a
too.
phenomenal human being. Like, he deserves all of it and then some.
Oh, and my last group I'd like to plug, they're also a group I know from Bandcamp. They're a New York-based hardcore band, but kind of like crust punk influenced hardcore by the name of Despair Wolf. I found them on Bandcamp. I'd say they're like a very much like NYCHC kind of style hardcore, but they have like this extreme metal influence they tap into. So I found them on Bandcamp, I think last fall, and then I saw them a little bit before the quarantine play the back room of a skate shop. That was like really cool kind of pop up secret show.
Yeah.
They have this little like ramp set up in the skate shop, so that way like people could try the skateboards out, and the band just like them and a few other like hardcore bands just like set up on the ramp and just like played a show from there.
It's a great show.
Definitely sounds like a pretty great show. Gabby, do you have any Bandcamp bands that you'd like to discuss?
Ben really like hit my main ones. You
Oh
got
no,
Tony.
sorry.
One more from the Long Island music scene that I really like is Brian Kish, and like he's in a number of different projects. Brian Kish's Lounge Pants is his noise project, or maybe not.
Oh, I think Brian Kish's Lounge.
Pants.
I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Okay, I'm sorry. He's got like a number of different projects.
I think the one called Brian Kish's Lounge Project, Lounge Pants, is like his project, and he does like everything he does. There's some noise in there, and there's some like more straightforward songs, and he's also in bands. If I'm getting that right,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. I've seen him do a number of different things live. It's like a little hard to keep up. He does a bunch, but he's great. So like check out his various Bandcamp projects.
Okay, so for me, I have a few that I'd like to discuss as well. One is it's a solo project called Somewhere Off Jazz Street.
Cool name.
Yeah, it's the name caught my ear a while ago when I was looking for bands that were similar to Warren and the Club of Gore. So yeah, Somewhere Off Jazz Street is a solo jazz project. The guy who does it, he's actually a pianist, but it's driven by an electronic saxophone, which you'd think wouldn't sound that good, but he actually uses it to a very good effect. I actually ended up listening to a lot of his discography about like a week ago because I was reading a James Ellroy novel, and it was like the perfect soundtrack to it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So yeah, it's a good mixture between dark and moody and desperate and frantic. I don't know. I'm not like a hardcore jazz guy, but I think people who are like into jazz would enjoy it. And someone who just wants like a very noirish sounding music, I think they would enjoy it.
Sounds like the kind of jazz I tend to go for. I like the weird kind of fusion-y stuff.
Yeah, so Somewhere Off Jazz Street, that's very highly recommended. The other one I wanted to talk about was a metal project called Meth Witch, which is a great name.
Yeah.
That's they haven't their newest album. Well, it's another solo project. His newest project is called Indwell, which is it's a story album, and one of the interesting things is even though it is like a very heavy, a very aggressive type of metal, it actually doesn't really sound like a one-man project. If you had like played this, if you just play this to me without telling me anything about this, I would think it was a band, not a one-man project. Indwell is a genuinely very, very creepy, haunting album. The story of it is kind of basic. It's about this rich asshole who tries to summon demons to make him even richer, but they end up possessing him. And like the entire rest of the album, after the first couple songs, is basically just him describing the tortures being inflicted upon him. So you read the lyrics, it actually is genuinely pretty disquieting, and even the artwork is really great. It's Meth Witch, the album Indwell. It's another one I very highly recommend. And the last one I wanted to talk about was this one's a little bit older, but it's another metal album. This one's it's actually another band with the name Witch in the band name. It's called Bell Witch. I'm not sure if you've
Big fan.
Yeah, I think on Facebook, I can't remember where, but I saw the cover to the album Mirror Reaper,
Yeah.
and of course that really struck me. It looks almost like a Beksinski painting, and Beksinski is like my favorite artist. It's not Beksinski; it's someone else. I'm not gonna try to pronounce that name. But yeah, Bell Witch is it's the opposite. It's less like heavy and angry, and it's more very atmospheric, very like doomy. It was actually written after that because they were originally a three-piece group, bass, guitar, and drums, but the guitarist passed away. So Mirror Reaper is kind of a tribute to the departed guitarist, and it's pretty much driven almost entirely by bass. So it's very low, very heavy, very atmospheric. And it's a really good album just to put on in the background and just kind of like let it wash over you. So that's Bell Witch, the album Mirror Reaper, another really great one.
My old band in college, I was in like a sludge doom band called Ash Chugger. That's Ash, ASH. I haven't called it Ass Chugger. Eventually leaned into it. But yeah, Bell Witch was like one of the bands that were really like, we're trying to merge a kind of like Bell Witch, Electric Wizard, kind of Paul Bearer, like very slow doom with like very kind of in your face, like hardcore sludge. It's kind of like it was kind of like Bell Witch meets Converge, but yeah, they're a band that's near and dear to me.
Yeah, so and it's actually kind of funny. I ended up choosing like two metal albums for this segment because I actually haven't listened to that much metal recently. Like those are like two big ones that like really struck me and stuck with me. I did listen to a lot of like death metal and grindcore and stuff in high school, but I don't know, at some point like I kind of just moved away from it.
Yeah, I know how that goes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but occasionally I'll still come across something that really strikes me and sticks with me.
Yeah, I found like a lot of doom and black metal I can still do as much as anything, but I think I just like at the time when I was like a teenager, listening to so much death and thrash. It's kind of like, all right, I get what you're doing. So I feel like the more introspective, like emotional metal, it still kind of hits me the way some other metal doesn't quite anymore, unless it's like exceptionally good, like Slayer and Power Trip and bands like that. Probably listen to until I die, I imagine.
Yeah, I've definitely been listening to, like, when I do listen to metal, it's definitely like more lo-fi atmospheric stuff that I put on in the background while I'm either reading or writing.
Yeah.
Hear that.
So I think that's just about everything. So to wrap it up here, Ben, where can people go to find you online?
Right. Yes, people can find me myself at well, actually, give me one moment just to pull up the URL. I have mistakenly identified it on different podcasts before. Okay, cool. So I have like no web design skills to speak of, so I haven't put any money into it. So the URL is what it is. So my personal website is doomgoat666.wixsite.com/benfits. And that's spelled my name, BENFITTS. And then the band, War Honey, we can be found just on like the War Honey Bandcamp, also on Spotify, Facebook, Instagram. And we have our own website, which is also a Wix site. It is warhoneyband.wixsite.com/webpage. Because again, trying to do this on a budget.
Okay. And Gabby, do you have any websites or anything you'd like to plug?
Honestly, no. I mean, again, I'm kind of just tied into the band, so that's where to find us.
Okay. All right. This has been Bandcamp Massacre with Ben Fitz and Gabby from War Honey. Again, you can find them on warhoney.bandcamp.com. And thank you both very much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks
for having us.
Thanks so much for having us, Ben.